Have you ever met someone who's incredibly smart, but somehow their life is still a mess? They know all the facts. They've read all the books. They can quote philosophers, scientists, and spiritual teachers with ease. And yet, they're impatient, easily offended, or quick to judge. Maybe they struggle with relationships. Maybe they constantly repeat the same mistakes. It makes you wonder, is that really wisdom? Before we dive deeper, pause for a moment and ask yourself, are you truly thinking for yourself or just reacting to the noise around you? If you've ever felt stuck, unheard, or like you're living on autopilot, this video is for you. Because what we're about to explore could shift the way you think, speak, and grow forever. So if you're ready to challenge your mindset and reclaim control of your life, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up, and let's grow together. Now let's get into it. Today we're going to challenge what it means to be wise. Because real wisdom, especially through the lens of modern Stoicism, isn't just about how much you know. It's about how you live, how you respond, how you treat others, and most importantly, how open you are to seeing your own blind spots. In this video, we'll uncover the deeper meaning of wisdom, not the kind found in textbooks, but the kind that actually changes your life. And here's the twist. To understand wisdom, we need to look at the opposite, foolishness. Now, when I say foolish, I'm not here to judge anyone. This isn't about pointing fingers or labeling people. It's about developing self-awareness. It's about identifying behaviors that hold us back, things we all do at times, so that we can begin to grow out of them. Because here's the truth. We all have moments of foolishness. We all have areas in our lives where we lack clarity, humility, or discipline. And that's okay, if we're willing to learn. This is exactly what the Stoics were trying to teach us. They believed that the wise person isn't the one who never fails, but the one who reflects, adapts, and keeps trying to live better. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, said, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. It is the truth I seek, and the truth never harmed anyone." That's what wisdom sounds like. Not arrogance, not defensiveness, but a calm strength that's open to being wrong, open to evolving. So in this video, we're going to walk through 6 subtle but powerful signs of foolishness that we often overlook in ourselves. These signs aren't here to shame you. They're here to shine a light on places where wisdom can grow. We'll connect these insights with timeless Stoic principles, like learning from the past, embracing challenges as fuel for growth, and being adaptable when life throws us a curveball. We'll ask the hard questions like, do I resist feedback because of pride? Am I repeating the same emotional reactions over and over? Do I truly listen or just wait to speak? These questions might sting a little, but they're the doorway to a better, more resilient life. And along the way, I'll share personal reflections, real-life stories, and practical tools you can start using today. Because wisdom isn't just a lofty ideal. It's a practice. It's how we show up in conversations, in conflict, and in quiet moments with ourselves. So if you've ever felt stuck in old patterns, if you're tired of reacting instead of responding, or if you simply want to become more grounded, more thoughtful, more free, you're in the right place. Let's dive into the first sign and start building not just knowledge, but wisdom that transforms. Let's start with the first major sign of foolishness, a closed mind. Now, what does that really mean? At first glance, it sounds simple. Someone who refuses to listen, who thinks they already know everything. But the truth is, a closed mind is more dangerous than it looks. It's like a fortress, built not with wisdom, but with fear, pride, and the illusion of control. Think about it. Have you ever caught yourself shutting down a new idea, not because it was wrong, but because it made you uncomfortable? We all do it. Maybe it challenges a belief you've held for years. Maybe it forces you to admit you were wrong about something. Or maybe it simply came from someone you don't like or don't respect. And just like that, the walls go up. A closed mind rejects alternative viewpoints before even considering them. It pushes away anything unfamiliar, anything that doesn't fit neatly into what we already believe. And underneath all that resistance, there's often a deep fear of being wrong, a fear of losing control. But here's the hard truth. When we build those mental walls, we don't just keep new ideas out, we also lock ourselves in. We stop growing. We miss out on fresh insights, deeper relationships, and opportunities to evolve. I've seen this happen in real life more times than I can count. A friend who refuses to hear feedback about their behavior because that's just who I am. A colleague who resists a better solution at work because we've always done it this way. A family member who can't accept a new perspective on a sensitive topic because it threatens their identity. You probably know someone like this. You may even recognize moments like this in yourself. I know I do. And the consequences? They're quiet, but profound. Personal growth stalls, relationships weaken, and our world slowly shrinks. We stop connecting deeply with others because we've already decided they have nothing to teach us. But here's where Stoic wisdom offers us a way out. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "We have two ears and one mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Let that sink in. The Stoics weren't interested in winning arguments or defending egos. They believed that strength came from humility and curiosity, from being adaptable, not rigid. For them, a wise person is a student of life, always learning, always listening. So if you catch yourself shutting down a new idea, pause and ask, what am I afraid of here? Is this about truth or is it about protecting my pride? What might I learn if I stayed open, even just a little longer? Because real wisdom isn't threatened by being wrong. It welcomes correction. It knows that truth doesn't shrink when challenged. It shines brighter. Let me be honest with you, this isn't easy, especially in a world that rewards certainty, outrage, and being right all the time. But if we want to grow, if we want real freedom, we have to stay soft where the world wants us to be hard. Being open-minded doesn't mean you accept everything blindly. It means you evaluate ideas honestly, calmly, and without fear. It means you remain curious even when it's uncomfortable. So the next time you feel that resistance rise up, that urge to dismiss, to argue, to defend, pause, lean in. And remember, your growth depends not on how much you know, but on how willing you are to listen. Let's talk about something most of us have done, but few of us want to admit: blaming others. It's one of the most common but most harmful habits we fall into when life doesn't go our way. Something breaks down in our career. It's the boss, the market, the timing. A relationship ends. It's because they didn't understand us. We lose motivation. It's the weather, the kids, our genetics, anything but us. Now, don't get me wrong, there are real obstacles in life. There are situations where people treat us unfairly or where systems are broken. This isn't about denying that reality, but there's a difference between recognizing difficulty and avoiding responsibility. Blame is a defense mechanism. It protects our ego from the discomfort of facing the truth, that maybe we made a mistake, that maybe we could have done more or different. And that's hard to accept, especially when we already feel overwhelmed, hurt, or insecure. So instead, we point the finger outward because it feels safer. But here's the problem. Every time we blame, we give away our power. We say, I can't change because it's someone else's fault. And slowly, we become prisoners in a story we've written ourselves. A story where we are always the victim and never the author. It erodes trust. It damages relationships. People can feel when you're constantly dodging ownership. And over time, they pull away. More importantly, it blocks your own growth because you can't improve from a lesson you refuse to admit. The Stoics had a radical approach to this. They said, own everything you can control and let go of the rest. Seneca, the Roman philosopher, once warned, he who excuses himself accuses himself. In other words, when we cling to excuses, we waste precious time we could be using to learn, to grow, to transform. Let me give you an example. I once worked with a man who constantly blamed his team for missed deadlines. They're not fast enough, he'd say. They don't understand my vision. But over time, people stopped trusting him. They felt unappreciated, unheard. His team shrank and so did his influence. Eventually, after a tough conversation, he admitted, I micromanaged. I never made my expectations clear. I was afraid of letting go. That moment of truth, it changed everything, not just for his leadership, but for his peace of mind. Because accountability, while uncomfortable at first, is actually liberating. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your own life. So let me ask you something. What are you currently blaming that might really be a mirror? Is there a pattern you keep repeating in relationships? A frustration at work that you secretly contribute to? A dream you say you can't pursue, but deep down, you haven't fully committed to? These aren't easy questions, but they're the ones that set you free. The Stoics believed emotional maturity begins with this one powerful decision: to stop outsourcing responsibility. Because once you own your part, you reclaim your power to change. So the next time something goes wrong, pause. Before pointing fingers, ask yourself, what part of this do I own? What can I learn here? Because you don't grow by being right. You grow by being honest. And that kind of honesty, it doesn't weaken you, it builds unshakable strength. Let's talk about a trap that's incredibly seductive and incredibly dangerous: arrogance. Now, I'm not talking about healthy confidence. I'm talking about that inflated sense of self-importance, the kind that walks into a room and assumes it's always the smartest one there. At its core, arrogance isn't strength. It's not certainty. It's insecurity wearing a crown. It shows up in subtle ways: talking over others, dismissing opposing views without a second thought, treating someone's idea like it's beneath you. You've probably seen it in others. You've probably felt it from others. And if we're being really honest, we've probably all fallen into it at some point. Because let's face it, it feels good to be right, to be the expert, to feel in control. But the moment we believe we have all the answers, we stop asking questions. We stop listening. We stop learning. And that's when things start to fall apart. Let me give you a real example. I once worked with a business leader who was brilliant, no doubt about it. But he had one major flaw: he couldn't stand being challenged. The moment someone disagreed, even respectfully, he'd shut them down. Meetings became one-sided. Team members stopped sharing ideas. And eventually progress stalled. Why, Mom? Because when you believe you're the only one who's right, you close the door to everything that could make you better. Arrogance kills collaboration. It blinds us to risk. It leads to bad decisions because we're no longer open to feedback that could have saved us from ourselves. And here's what the Stoics knew long ago: no one is immune to foolishness, not even the wise, which is why they preached humility as a daily practice. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, a warrior, and one of the most powerful men in history, wrote to himself in his personal journal, "You are just one tiny part of the universe. Don't let it go to your head." That's not weakness, that's strength with perspective. And the moment you truly accept that you don't know everything, that's the moment your mind opens. That's the moment you grow. Because wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about staying curious enough to ask better questions. So if you notice yourself dismissing someone's idea too quickly, or feeling that urge to win every conversation, pause. Ask yourself, am I trying to understand or just trying to dominate? What am I missing because I've already decided I'm right? How might this person's experience teach me something I can't see on my own? Because here's the truth. Every person you meet knows something you don't. That intern, they might have a fresh perspective you have lost sight of. That colleague you disagree with, they might be pointing out a blind spot that could save your project or your pride. That friend with a completely different worldview, they might help you see a deeper layer of truth you never considered. Humility isn't about shrinking yourself. It's about making space for others, and in doing so, you actually become stronger, wiser, more effective. Because when your mind is open, when your ego is in check, when you value connection over control, that's when the best ideas come to life. So let go of arrogance, embrace curiosity, and remember what the Stoics taught us. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you stop moving forward. Stay humble, stay teachable, and you'll never stop growing. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment where you opened up to someone and they just didn't get it? Maybe they brushed it off. Maybe they changed the subject. Or maybe they said something that made it worse without even realizing it. That's what a lack of empathy feels like speaking into a void. And in a world that's louder, faster, and more distracted than ever, empathy is quietly disappearing. Now, empathy isn't just about being nice. It's not about fake sympathy or saying the right words. It's about the genuine ability to understand and feel what someone else is going through, to be present in their emotional world, even when it's uncomfortable. When we lack empathy, conversations become shallow. Relationships become transactional. And little by little, we start living around each other, not with each other. You see it in workplaces where teammates are just roles, not people. You see it in families where misunderstandings pile up into walls of resentment. And you see it in society where people talk past each other instead of listening. It's easy to ignore the emotional weight behind someone's words. It's easy to focus on logic, facts, and getting things done while completely missing the human experience in front of you. But here's the thing, we are not robots. We are complex, emotional beings who long to be understood. And when empathy is absent, life gets colder, lonelier, less meaningful. The Stoics, often misunderstood as emotionless or detached, actually taught the opposite. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, a warrior, and a philosopher, wrote, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." And what are thoughts, if not shaped by how we see others? Empathy sharpens your mind. It connects you to reality. It makes you a better friend, leader, parent, partner, human. So how do we start practicing it? First, by listening. Not the kind of listening where you're just waiting for your turn to speak, but real, full-body listening. The kind where you're not just hearing words, but trying to understand the emotion behind them. Try this. The next time someone tells you something, pause. Instead of offering advice, ask a deeper question. Say, "That sounds tough. Can you tell me more about how you felt?" Just that small shift can change everything. Second, put yourself in their shoes. Sounds cliche, I know. But imagine for a moment, what pressure are they carrying? What pain haven't they voiced yet? What fear might be driving their reaction? When we start to see people through that lens, our judgments soften, our assumptions crack, and compassion steps in. And here's a truth that might surprise you. Empathy isn't just for them, it's also for you. Because when you connect emotionally with others, your life becomes richer. Your relationships deepen. Your work becomes more meaningful. And your mind, your stoic, wise, grounded mind, becomes more powerful, not less. I once met a CEO who told me, "I used to think empathy was weakness. Then I almost lost my family over it. Now I know it's the foundation of everything." Empathy doesn't mean you agree with everyone. It doesn't mean you excuse harmful behavior. It means you see people, you value their humanity, and you respond not just with intellect, but with heart. So ask yourself, where in your life are you rushing past someone's pain? Who around you might be silently asking for understanding? And what kind of world would we build if we just chose to listen a little more deeply? The Stoics believe that the quality of our inner life reflects how we treat others. So today, choose to slow down, tune in, and connect not just with thoughts, but with presence. Because a world with more empathy is a world with more wisdom. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stayed in a job too long because the idea of starting over terrified you? Or maybe you held on to a routine, even one that wasn't working, just because it felt safe? If so, you're not alone. Change scares us, even when it's for the better. There's something deeply human about clinging to the familiar, even when it's boring, even when it's broken, because at least we know it. That's what the fear of change is, a quiet resistance to stepping into the unknown. But here's the truth. Every meaningful transformation in life requires discomfort. Think about it. Growth doesn't happen inside comfort zones. No one becomes stronger by doing what's easy. No business was built. No relationship healed. No habit changed without someone, somewhere, deciding, "I'm going to do this differently." But many of us, myself included at times, hold on to outdated routines, beliefs, or environments long after they've stopped serving us. Why? Because the unfamiliar feels dangerous. We imagine worst-case scenarios. We overestimate the risk. We tell ourselves stories like, what if I fail? What if I lose what I already have? What if I'm not ready? But here's another question. What if staying the same is the real danger? Because when we resist change, we don't just pause growth, we slowly suffocate it. Opportunities pass us by, adaptability weakens, and in a world that's moving faster than ever, that resistance can cost us not just success, but peace. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who lived in a time of plagues, wars, and political chaos, wrote something profound. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, obstacles aren't barriers, they're blueprints. Change is not your enemy, it's your teacher. That failed project, it taught you resilience. That difficult conversation, it sharpened your emotional intelligence. That unexpected career detour, it revealed strengths you didn't even know you had. I remember a time in my own life when I was terrified to leave a stable job to pursue something more aligned with my purpose. I had every reason to stay. But deep down, I knew the real risk was not failure. It was regret. And when I finally made the leap, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Here's the Stoic challenge. Instead of avoiding change, lean into it with courage and curiosity. Ask yourself, what's one small change I've been resisting? Is the fear real or just imagined? Who could I become if I stopped running from discomfort? Because here's the truth most people don't talk about. Comfort zones feel safe, but they slowly erase your potential. Real freedom, real wisdom comes when we accept that life will change. And we don't fight it. We flow with it. So today, instead of asking, how can I stay safe? Try asking, how can I grow? The Stoics didn't promise a life without challenge. They promised that with the right mindset, every challenge could become an advantage. And that's your power too. You don't need to fear change. You just need to stop fearing who you might become if you embraced it. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling completely unheard? Like the other person was just waiting for their turn to speak, never really hearing a word you said? Or, be honest, have you ever been that person? I know I have. Sometimes without realizing it, we turn conversations into monologues. We rush to respond. We interrupt. We dominate. And deep down, it's often not because we're rude, it's because we're desperate to be seen and understood. But here's the irony. The more we talk, the less we actually connect. There's a reason the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Because real wisdom doesn't come from talking, it comes from listening. Now, when we talk more than we listen, it might feel like we're contributing, but what we're actually doing is missing. Missing the nuances, missing the emotions, missing the chance to truly understand. Think about the last time someone deeply listened to you, not multitasking, not formulating a reply in their head, just present. How did that feel? Now imagine what would happen if you became that person for someone else. In a world that's constantly screaming for attention, the quiet act of listening is radical. It builds trust. It softens tension. It opens doors. But when we don't listen, when we use the conversations just to broadcast ourselves, something breaks. We push people away, we lose insight, and worst of all, we stop growing. Because every person you meet knows something you don't. Every interaction is a classroom, if you're humble enough to hear it. I remember once being in a meeting where a junior teammate shared an idea I had almost dismissed, because I was too busy preparing my own point. But I caught myself. I leaned in. And her insight, it ended up saving us hours of wasted effort. That moment taught me something. Listening isn't passive. It's powerful. It's not about being silent. It's about being present. It's about creating space, not just for others to speak, but for us to learn. The Stoics knew that listening was an essential part of wisdom, because when we truly listen, we step outside of ourselves. We loosen the grip of ego, and we invite in a broader perspective. So today I challenge you. In your next conversation, pause before responding. Ask a follow-up question instead of making a counterpoint. And when you feel the urge to interrupt, just breathe. Let the silence teach you something. Because the truth is, people don't remember the smartest person in the room. They remember the one who made them feel heard. And if you want to build stronger relationships, become a better leader, grow as a human being, start by listening. Not just with your ears, but with your attention. Because in a world full of noise, the most powerful voice might be the one that's quiet enough to truly hear. Let me paint a familiar picture. You're in a conversation, maybe at work, maybe with someone you love, and suddenly something they say hits a nerve. Before you even realize what's happening, your voice gets louder, your heart races, and words come flying out that you didn't mean. Minutes later, you're left staring at the damage, regret, embarrassment, a relationship that now feels a little more fragile. Sound familiar? This is emotional reactivity. I'm haunting him. Chibim. When our emotions hijack reason and drive us to say or do things we later wish we hadn't. We all experience strong emotions. Anger, fear, jealousy. That's human. But wisdom begins when we stop letting those emotions drive the car. And let's be honest, in today's world of constant stress and overstimulation, it's easier than ever to snap, to panic, to spiral. We've been conditioned to react fast, to comment instantly, to take things personally, to hit back harder. But here's the problem. When we're reactive, we stop being intentional. We make decisions we don't stand by. We hurt people we care about, and we chip away at our own credibility and peace of mind. Now, the ancient Stoics had a word for this kind of inner balance: apatheia. But don't mistake that for apathy. Apatheia doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you are not ruled by what you feel. Imagine being in a heated moment, and instead of exploding, you pause, you breathe, you step back, even just for a second, and ask, what's the wisest response here? Not the loudest one. That moment of pause is where your power lives. I'll tell you from personal experience, learning to respond instead of react changed my relationships, my leadership, and even my health. I used to think reacting fast made me strong, but over time I realized anyone can yell, anyone can lash out. That takes no strength. What takes real strength? Staying composed in chaos. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Every time you choose calm over chaos, you reclaim that power. You show up not just as a smarter version of yourself, but as a better friend, partner, parent, or leader. So the next time your emotions rise, whether it's frustration, fear, or anger, don't deny them. Just don't surrender to them either. Observe them, learn from them, but lead with reason. Because in a world driven by noise, the most powerful person in the room is the one who doesn't need to raise their voice to be heard. Let's be real for a second. Have you ever said, "I'll do it tomorrow," and then tomorrow turns into next week, and next week into someday? If that hits close to home, you're not alone. We all procrastinate. We put off that workout, delay that important conversation, postpone chasing that dream. Why? Because doing the meaningful stuff often feels uncomfortable, even scary. So we reach for what's easy, scrolling through our phone, rearranging the desk, doing busy work that feels productive but leads nowhere. This is procrastination, the art of fooling ourselves into comfort while quietly abandoning our potential. And it's not just laziness. Often, it's rooted in fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough. So instead of facing the task, we avoid it. We trade long-term fulfillment for short-term relief. But here's the catch. That relief is temporary. The stress, that builds up quietly, day by day. You miss deadlines, opportunities slip by, and one day you look back wondering, what could have happened if I just started? The Stoics had a powerful mindset for this. It's called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of obstacles. They would imagine the difficulties ahead, not to scare themselves, but to prepare. Because when you anticipate the challenges, they lose their power to paralyze you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Pretty intense, right? But there's truth in it. Time is not unlimited, and every time we delay, we silently tell ourselves, my goals can wait, my life can wait. But they can't. Here's something that works. Break that overwhelming task into small, doable steps. Don't aim to finish the whole race today. Just put on your shoes. Just write the first sentence. Just make the call. And most importantly, honor the promises you make to yourself, not just the ones you make to others. Because when you follow through on what you said you would do, you begin to trust yourself. That's where real confidence comes from. Procrastination whispers, there's still time. But wisdom replies, there may never be a better time than now. So what are you putting off today that your future self is begging you to begin? Start small. Start scared if you must. But for the sake of your own growth, just start. Let's talk about something many of us do, often without even realizing it. We crave validation. A like on social media, a compliment from a coworker, a nod of approval from family. It feels good, right? That little hit of recognition. But what happens when that becomes the main source of our self-worth? What happens when your choices, what you wear, what job you take, even what dreams you chase, are shaped less by who you are and more by what others expect? This is the trap of seeking external validation. It starts subtly. You do something you love, but someone criticizes it, so you stop. You speak your truth, but it doesn't land well, so you shrink back. Before long, you're living not a life that's yours, but a carefully curated version designed to avoid judgment and win applause. And here's the thing, that applause is fleeting. You might please one person today, but disappoint another tomorrow. You might win the praise, but lose yourself in the process. The Stoics, especially Epictetus, warned us about this. He said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That's bold, but it's also liberating, because once you stop chasing approval, you can start living authentically. Now, let's be clear. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a compliment. We all do. But when your sense of self depends on it, when your confidence rises and falls based on who likes you or doesn't, you've given your power away. You start people-pleasing, constantly adjusting to fit in, afraid to disappoint. Or worse, you start comparing. You scroll through social media and think, why aren't I as successful, as admired, as happy as them? It's a losing game. So what's the antidote? It's this. Anchor your worth in your values, not in applause. Ask yourself, not, will they like this? But Mazao, is this true to me? So, not, will this get attention? But does this reflect who I want to be? Focus on what's within your control, your choices, your effort, your growth. That's what Stoicism teaches. You can't control what others think, but you can control the intention behind your actions. You can choose integrity over approval, substance over image, truth over popularity. And the irony? When you stop chasing approval and start living authentically, people often respect you more. Because deep down, we're all drawn to those who are real, who speak with clarity, act with conviction, and stand firmly in their own skin. So here's the question. Are you living your life or performing for someone else's applause? Let this be your reminder. You are not here to be liked. You're here to live. So let's take a breath and look back for a moment. Throughout this journey, we've uncovered 6 quiet but powerful habits that can keep us trapped in ignorance. A closed mind that refuses to learn, blaming others instead of taking ownership, arrogance, hiding insecurity behind overconfidence, lack of empathy, disconnecting us from real connection, fear of change, locking us in comfort zones that no longer serve us, and talking more than listening, drowning out the wisdom of others. Now here's the truth. We all carry some of these tendencies. At some point, we've all shut down a new idea, avoided responsibility, or resisted growth. That doesn't make us bad, it makes us human. But recognizing these patterns, That's the moment everything can begin to shift. The Stoics believed wisdom wasn't about appearing perfect. It was about being honest with ourselves, seeing our flaws clearly, and choosing every day to rise above them. So how do we break free? By embracing the Stoic mindset, a set of timeless principles that empower us to live with clarity, purpose, and resilience. First, responsibility. Instead of blaming the world, ask, what can I do differently? Second, humility. We don't have all the answers, and that's okay. Wisdom begins when we admit we don't know. Third, in the fame down, empathy. Choose to see the world through someone else's eyes. Listen, connect, understand. Fourth, adaptability. Life will change whether you like it or not. Growth comes when we stop resisting and start evolving. And finally, active listening. Not just hearing, but being fully present with others. Because that's how real insight and real trust are born. Now ask yourself, what would your life look like if you lived this way every single day? What if, instead of defending your ego, you focused on expanding your mind? What if, instead of needing to be right, you were committed to learning? What if, instead of reacting, you responded with calm, clarity, and purpose? Here's the beautiful part. You don't have to master it all at once. Change happens one insight, one decision, one breath at a time. So today, start small. Notice when you're tuning out or shutting down. Choose to stay open. Pause before you react. Ask a better question. Listen just a little deeper. The Stoics didn't promise comfort. They promised clarity. And with clarity comes freedom. So I'll leave you with this. Ignorance isn't the absence of knowledge. It's the refusal to seek it. But the moment you decide to open your mind, take responsibility, and grow, you have already taken the first step toward wisdom. Let's walk that path together. If you're ready to take this journey from knowing to truly living with purpose, I invite you to join our community. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a moment of growth. If this exploration of Stoic wisdom sparked something in you, give this video a thumbs up. It helps us reach more people hungry for real, lasting change. Share this with a friend who could use a reminder to stay open-minded, own their choices, and embrace empathy. You never know whose life might shift because you cared enough to pass it on. And I want to hear from you. What's one small step you'll take today to break free from old patterns? Drop your thoughts or questions in the comments below so we can learn together and hold each other accountable. Your voice matters here, and your story could inspire someone else to take their first bold step. Let's build a space where curiosity outshines certainty, compassion outshines pride, and every challenge becomes an invitation to grow. Thanks for being here. Now let's keep moving forward together.